History remembers rebels, but only one rebel defeated death. The word rebel has long been soaked in sweat, noise, and disruption, spray-painted on alley walls and whispered beneath the hum of protest drums. We attach it to leather jackets and flower crowns, to pamphlets and Molotov cocktails, to mohawks and manifestos. Rebels are the ones who stand in the fire, who flip the script, who refuse the rod of silence. But perhaps the most misunderstood rebel of them all wasn't born in a palace or printed on a poster. He was born in a manger, in backwater Bethlehem, to a teenage girl and a God who dared to bleed. His name was Jesus. We don't talk about him like that often enough. We package him in politeness. We render him in watercolor pastels. But Jesus wasn't tame. He wasn't nice in the way we define it. Docile, digestible, safe. He was dangerous in the truest sense. Dangerous to empires, to egos, to anything too polished or performative. If you're looking for the original rebel yell, it's echoing not from Woodstock or Camden or Compton, but from Golgotha. History has had its fair share of firebrands. Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses and cracked the teeth of religious corruption. Rosa Parks sat still so a nation would stand up. Malcolm X burned through America's conscience with a gaze that dared it to flinch. Joan of Arc heard heaven's whisper and went to war with a sword and a skirt. Banksy, Bob Dylan, Emma Goldman, James Dean, and every punk rocker who ever snarled into a microphone. All of them carried rebellion like a torch in the night. But rebellion for rebellion's sake eventually fades. It eats itself. The rebel who endures is the one who flips tables not for attention, but for truth. Jesus didn't walk into the temple to make a point. He walked in to make a prophecy combust. The place that was supposed to be sacred had become a den of capitalized faith. Animals were sold, people were swindled, and the name of God was merchandised like a logo. So he fashioned a whip, not out of rage, but resolve. He turned tables and tore through the marketplace like a holy hurricane. And still, somehow, we hang that scene in our churches like it's a quiet Sunday school moment. No, this was protest. This was purification. Punk rock screamed that the system was broken. Jesus showed us what it looked like to walk untainted in the middle of the machine. The hippies said, make love, not war. Jesus said, love is war, against pride, against hatred, against apathy. The civil rights movement marched with Bibles in hand, not because they wanted a religious pat on the back, but because they knew that Jesus stood with the beaten, the broken, the bare-bone truth of justice. He dined with the disqualified. He touched the contagious. He let women sit at his feet and didn't flinch when society sneered. He told the powerful that they were empty tombs, dressed in robes but rotting inside. He told the rich to sell everything, the religious to stop pretending, and the proud to sit down. And he did it without a microphone, without a stage, without a sponsorship deal. His sermon was dirt and sky and silence split by words that still set the soul ablaze. The Son of God didn't overthrow Rome with swords. He overthrew it by refusing to kneel to it. He didn't play politics. He didn't pander to parties. He didn't start a militia or a marketing campaign. He started a movement so scandalous in its humility, so radical in its love, that it still outlives kings and kingdoms. Every revolution dies. His didn't. What made Jesus different was his direction. Most rebels point outward. Jesus pointed inward. He said the real war isn't fought with fists, but with forgiveness. The enemy isn't across the aisle, it's in the mirror. The revolution isn't coming. It's already here, buried beneath ego and apathy, waiting to be raised like Lazarus. Even his death was defiance. Crucifixion wasn't just execution, it was humiliation. A public statement that Rome wins and resistance dies. But Jesus didn't just die. He chose to, willingly, voluntarily, not as a victim, but as a victor in disguise. Because what kind of rebel lays down his life for the very people who betrayed him? What kind of king lets himself be crowned with thorns? Only one. The kind whose blood writes freedom on the bones of every believer. The irony is delicious. We live in a world that worships rebellion but crucified the greatest rebel of all. We wear Che Guevara on t-shirts, but ignore the carpenter who cracked open eternity. We quote Nietzsche and nod along to resist the system, but we've sanitized the one who broke the very matrix of sin and death. Jesus isn't some outdated icon. He's still flipping tables, still offending sensibilities, still whispering to the weary and roaring in the ears of the proud. He disrupts comfort. He dismantles lukewarm religion. He refuses to be co-opted by the left, the right, or the algorithms of popularity. He isn't a brand. He isn't a bumper sticker. He's a bloody, risen, reigning king, and he will not be boxed. So why follow him? Because in a world where everyone's screaming for attention, he speaks with authority. In a culture drowning in performance, he walks with authenticity. He doesn't offer escape. He offers transformation. He doesn't promise ease. He promises purpose. Real rebellion doesn't end in applause. It ends in resurrection. To follow Jesus is to become a walking contradiction, gentle yet unshakable, humble yet unafraid, silent when the world screams and screaming when the world silences. It's to turn the other cheek in a society of clenched fists. It's to carry a cross instead of a grudge. It's to live like you've already died and risen again. And that, perhaps, is the most subversive thing of all. Because while the world spins in cycles of rage and reinvention, the rebel from Nazareth still stands, scarred, sovereign, and unshaken. Not just the rebel we needed, the one we still can't ignore, and never will. If you're ready to wear your faith like rebellion, loud, unapologetic, unshaken, step into faith mode. This isn't fashion, it's declaration. faithmode.com